I'm like 90% sure the Game Awards are going to announce their nominations next week, so here is what I predict will be nominated for Game of the Year. Keep in mind, these are predictions of what I think they will nominate, and they don't necessarily reflect my personal opinions on each game. I think it's pretty safe to say all three of these titles get nominated. These are obviously the indie AA darlings of the year, and I would be very, 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 very shocked if they don't get nominated. I think Split Fiction and Donkey Kong Bonanza will also be nominated. I don't feel as strongly about these two titles compared to the other previous three, but I still think they get nominations. Now, here's where it gets tricky. The Game Awards only allows for 6 nominations for their bigger categories, including Game of the Year, and the last slot is between these three, I think. For people saying where's Arc Raiders, the GOTY nominations have always emphasized single player experiences, and they might have an added multiplayer experience to the games, but for the most part, they are single player. Now, the Game Awards have always had a strong correlation to high Metacritic scores, and before people get pissy, I understand that we as humans with souls do not care about Metacritic's reviews and scores, and we just like what we like. But because the awards have a strong correlation to that site, I think we do make an account here that Death Stranding 2 does win numbers-wise out of these three. We also have to account for who is running this show, so I think because of that, Ghost of Yotei and Death Stranding 2 have a little bit of a more favorable edge. To be transparent, I have not played these three titles. I'm only barely into Ghost of Yotei, so this is mostly a vibes assessment, but I think based on how people talk about these three games and the reviews that I saw, I think Death Stranding 2 is probably going to get this last slot. These three games seem to share a common theme of they are good games, but they have areas about them that people have mixed feelings about, which separates them from the previous nominations that I mentioned. And I think generally the most favorable one out of these three seems to be Death Stranding 2 for me, so I think that's going to be my final pick. Now, the curveball that I'm thinking about lastly is Blueprints possibly taking that last slot instead, and I would be pretty shocked if this happens, not because I think the game is bad or anything. It's obviously one of the highest rated games this year, but I think historically the Game Awards have some bias towards these like mainstream, very reputable AAA companies, and we kind of have our indie selects so far, and those indie selects are definitely making the list, so I feel like they're not going to make space for Blueprints, but we'll see.